Not one person watching. Got one person watching. What up, Johnny? How you doing? Just gonna wait a couple minutes if you don't mind. That's what's up. That's what's up. What's up, Ash? How you been? How you been, Ash? Oh shit. Okay, about starting about 2 minutes. All right, fuck it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of my hip hop review. It's your boy Reg here, and the album I'm about to do today is Public Enemy's Music and Our Message, released in 1994. This is actually their 5th studio album. This album is known for our. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Give it up and give it up. I stand accused, and so what you gonna do? Producers include like the Bomb Squad, G Wiz, and shit like that. Key Shockley and Current Sleek Young. Yeah, this album was kind of pushed back a couple times, which I'm gonna get into in a minute. So after the release of Apocalypse 91, Public Enemy, they went on tour. They toured with U2. They did a couple of tours like overseas and shit. And it was around this time that, you know, gangster rap was rising, hardcore rap was rising and shit like that. And, you know, Public Enemy kind of like, you know, were losing popularity. Because Apocalypse 91, that was a very good album and shit like that. But at that time, I think they were kind of losing a lot of popularity and shit like that. So in 1992, they dropped the Greatest Misses album, which is basically just unreleased songs that they've done, unreleased songs that they were doing and shit like that. That's actually a very dope project. I need to get my hands on that project as well. Yeah, that album, I think the album's out of print. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a review on that album one day, you know, just for Public Enemy, just my love for Public Enemy and shit like that. So also around this time, you know, Flav Flav was getting in a lot of trouble with the law at that time and shit. Um, like he was into drugs and shit. Like in 91, he was arrested for assaulting his then girlfriend and shit like that, and which he lost custody of his kids and shit. And so 2 years later, 93, you know, he was arrested, you know, for attempted murder and shit and drug possession. And so his family, his family had gotten him, you know, intervention. They tried to get him off drugs and shit like that. Also, around the time in 94, Terminator X, you know, he got into a bad motorcycle accident and he shattered his left leg. And, you know, he was in the hospital. He was in the fucking hospital and shit like that for days and stuff like that. So that all this kind of let the album kind of get pushed back and back and back because from what I've read, I believe this album was supposed to have dropped either late 92, early or 93 and shit like that. So that's from what I've read. But yeah. Yeah, it was like a very interesting time and shit. But and this is actually the longest duration at that point that they had between albums, like I said before. Like, oh shit. This album was released in 94. The last official album they've done was like 91 because the previous albums like Yo Bum Rush the Show, it was like either 1 year, 1 to 2 years gap between those albums from Yo Bum Rush up to Apocalypse 91. Well, technically up to Greatest Misses, but you guys should know what I'm getting at. So yeah, 1994, that's when this album came out and shit like that. Well, yeah, this album. Yeah, you can see like the fucking album cover right here. You have like this nigga about like kill himself and shit, and he's listening to gangster rap. You got like the fucking 40s right there and shit. You got, I think like this supposed to represent like a label executive or an A&R. You got the KKK right there and shit like that. So yeah, judging by this, you guys should know what y'all about to get into and shit. Let me see what the comments gotta say. Johnny said, yeah, album came out during the time when gangster rap was out. Oh yeah, Johnny, like this whole album is pretty much like a diss towards like gangster rap. Well, not just towards gangster rap, but it questions the people who listen to the album, like saying, do you really get something out from this music, basically, which I want to talk about during this whole review. Mike C in the building. What's up with you, boy? How you been? Oh, and before I also got some extra vinyls as well. I'm gonna show y'all after I do the review and shit like that. Yeah, so see Michael C, because you know he always in my videos and shit. He just remind me I got some vinyls and shit. So yeah, this whole album, and yeah, I don't have the album disc because like the dude, he just said he had the booklet and everything, but yeah, I kind of been wanting this album for a while. Shout out to my homeboy Martin from Australia. He hooked me up with this. He was the one that hooked me up with this album, the Apocalypse 91. He hooked me up with like the Brotherland Chung albums and shit. The Brand Nubian album, All for One. He hooked me up with that. Like, yeah, fucking Martin back in Australia. Shout out to you and shit. Yeah, not trying to get that fucked up, but yeah. So you got like, and as you can see right here, you have all the albums that they've released up to that point. And then you got like Terminator X's solo albums, which I'm gonna talk about the one he dropped in 91. Valley in the Jeep Beat, something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. sometime like later on this month or early next month and shit. So yeah, very dope. Yeah, man. All right, so and I think this is really like one of the longest Public Enemy albums, one of the longest Public Enemy albums to date and shit like that, because this whole album has about 21 songs and shit like that, with the like a hidden track called Ferocious Soul. So yeah. Let me look at the comments one more time. Demoric, what's up with you, bro? You say you like the first four Public Enemy albums and the one from 2007. Interesting. Okay. I'm kind of interested in hearing your thoughts on this album too, but the one in the '07, that's the How to Sell Your Soul to Soulless People Who Sold Their Soul. Let me know what you think about that one. So I'm gonna start with this review right now. Track number one, Whole Lot of Love Going On in the Middle of Hell. Very that's a nice way to start off the album and shit like that. Excuse me. It just contains all these like new samples. They'll like combine them all together and shit like that. You know, talking about like the black community, the ill shit going on in the black community and all that stuff. Then track number two, Theatrical Parts, which in my opinion, I kind of felt like it was only like 30 seconds. I kind of felt like it wasn't really needed, but to each its own, which leads to track number three, Give It Up, which was of course a single. Yeah, man, that song right there, very dope song. It's talking about, you know, you gotta give it up. You like, I think give it up as in give up the gangster rap or give up that image and shit like that. Very dope song and shit like that. Yeah. Track number four, What Side You On? Yeah, that's another heavy track where it's like one of the more notable attacks on gangster rap and shit like that. Chuck D definitely he had like a hell of a performance with this song and shit. The beat, the Bomb Squad, of course, that beat and shit like that. Very interesting, very dope. Kind of like a return to form with a 94 twist, because if you all listen to, like, as I mentioned in the Apocalypse 91 review, like their proteges, like the Imperials, they took over the production and they had like more like a stripped down kind of production and shit like that. So yeah, I kind of felt like that song, that beat was kind of like a nice like return to form and shit like that. I definitely loved when he said, "If it comes down to shutting them down, I'm in the hood surrounded. Tell them I'm grounded. I'm on that psycho analytical tip. If politics is sticking to the mix like tricks, like, whoo, fucking dope, man. Like, yeah, that's one thing I want to say. Like, I'm gonna mention this more, but Chuck D, he had like a lot of dope lyrical performances throughout this whole album, man. Like, and that's not saying something, because you know he's always been consistently dope, but something with either Apocalypse 91 and this album, he was just on some shit. I'm sorry, man. He was just on some shit. But yeah, then we got Bedlam 1313. Bedlam, from what I looked up, Bedlam is talking, it's another word for like confusion and shit like that. That song was another cool song. It was okay and shit. I love the little high-pitched noise and shit like that was throughout the whole beat, because it's very reminiscent of like those older Public Enemy tracks, like Rebel Without a Pause and that the high-pitched kind of noise. If you guys listen to like a lot of Public Enemy, you all know what I'm talking about and shit. Then we get to Stop in the Name, which is like a little short kind of song and shit like that. Very cool, very interesting. And it leads to the Flavor Flav solo track, What Kind of Power We Got. From what I looked up, Flavor Flav, he actually produced this track from what I looked up, which very cool, very cool. This is a very interesting, another dope song and shit like that. Kind of reminiscent of like some of the older material, like kind of reminiscent of some like the older material and shit like that. Very cool, very dope. Then you get to my favorite song off this album, So What You Gonna Do Now? Like, fucking ill ass song, man. Like that fucking beat, that fucking beat G Wiz and Chuck D did and shit like that. Definitely had that little 94 twist, but at the same time, it was like Chuck D was just coasting on that fucking Chuck D was just coasting on that shit, you know what I'm saying? I fucking like the fucking hook he was talking about, talking that drive-by shit, everybody talking that gangster shit, talking that drive-by shit, everybody talking that gangster shit, slaves to the rhythm of the master, buck boom buck, another neighborhood disaster, hear the drummer go, like, and you know, he's talking, you know, some of the lyrics he was saying some shit like, I'm about ready to bounce trouble on the corner of Blunt Avenue in a 40 ounce. Mad uncivilized lifestyles, 30 years biz for kids, now that's wild. I'm raising my child, I'm stepping to the curb with the sign, do not disturb, like, and then the other line he said shit like, um, can't understand why a man gotta use a trigger on his own, supposed to act grown, crack it in the back, watch your brother pull the trigger on another brother. And then that's so fucking true and shit like that, because what I got from that line and shit like that is like, if you have the mind, you know, to kill somebody, you don't need a white person in the back of you telling you to kill your own people and shit like that. And I kind of felt like, you know, that was a little metaphor he was using for gangster rap and shit too, because, you know, gangster rap, which I want to talk about more, like gangster rap at that time was a lot of people were just shitting on it and stuff like that, you know. And with Chuck D having the status he has in hip hop and shit like that, you know, he wasn't really gonna have that shit. But yeah, I'm maybe talking a bit too much though, but so what you're gonna do next, so what you're gonna do now is definitely a very, very, very dope song from Public Enemy and shit. What's up, Try? How you living, Try? Yeah. I don't, and that's another thing too. I don't hear a lot of people mentioning that song and shit. I never hear, and it's like the only song people mention from this album is "Give It Up," which is a cool song, but there's like a lot more heavy songs on this project. Um, Track number 9, "White Heaven, Black Hell." This is like a little short song, but it's a very interesting complex because it's talking about how you have this white person, the white person like basically the white man's burden and shit. Like the white person coming in to save the day with the blacks. With every time black starts, something the white person comes over and save the day. But at the end of the day, it's like we're being screwed over and shit like that. You know, very interesting song and stuff like that. Um, Track number 10, "Race Against Time." That's another cool song. That's another cool song. Track number 11, "They Used to Call It Dope," which was like a little short kind of skit, has like a very um last poets kind of feel to it, to say the least. Track number 7, "Ain't Nothing But a Song." You know, ain't nothing but a song and shit like that. Um, I have to be quite honest. I respect the song, but it was an okay song. It wasn't really like one of my favorites and shit like that. It was pretty okay and shit. Yeah. Then we get to fucking "Live and Undrugged" Part 1 and 2. Fucking dope ass song right there. That's a fucking dope song. Yeah, there Chuck D, you know, he's on this like battle mode. He's going after like drug dealers who he's going after the drug dealers and like the people who keep them in, the youth who keep them in business and shit like that. And then he's talking about how, you know, the drugs that they're bringing into the ghetto is a sort of like a mind control that they have and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's very interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Boogie Down Productions, "Drug Dealer" off the Sex and Violence album. Classic album, if you ask me. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that, but with this album, it's kind of like more of a twist and shit like that. Yeah, very dope song. Love the beat too. The beat's very ill. Track number 14, "Thin Line Between Law and Rape." Whew, that's a relevant song today. A very relevant song today, man. Whew. it talks about how the media is always wants to force, black symbols to be considered as rapists and shit like that, considered as rapists, have kind of cast the image that we always after like the white women or women after general and shit. Um, and of course, you guys should know it's to play on the classic soul song from the Persuaders, "A Thin Line Between Love and Hate." And according to Chuck D, he said this regarding the song. It's talking about how, it's a thin line between law and rape deals with the fact that the image of rape and crime has been thrust upon black symbols here in America throughout the world. America and the Western world have raped entire races of people of the name, God, religion, culture, and language, have raped continents of resource and progeny. And yeah, that's so fucking true because it's considered like, now let me just say this. I have no tolerance against rapists or child molesters and stuff like that, but in this day and age, you have fucking Harvey Weinstein, you have Kevin Spacey, you have Charlie Sheen, who does a lot of crazy shit with these women and shit like that. But it feels like the media wants to put all the attention on fucking Bill Cosby, fucking they even trying to like talk shit about Michael Jackson again, R. Kelly, which that's another different story on a different day. But I'm just saying, like, it's the hypocrisy of the media because it's like you have cats like these Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, that's doing all this crazy shit with women, but if a black person gets accused without like no like evidence and shit like that, they get alleged for the crime and shit. It's like their name gets slaughtered throughout the fucking media and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But like I mentioned before, I have no tolerance against rapists or child molesters and shit like that. So that's something I've always kind of realized about, that. And yeah, Thin Line Between Law and Rape, that's arguably like my second favorite song off this album. Yeah, very relevant song today. Next song, I Ain't Mad at Y'all. That's another Flav solo track. It's an okay song, but I kind of felt like it should have been on the album a little bit way earlier. Maybe like the 10th, 11th song and shit like that. But yeah, to each his own. Then we got Death of a Carjacker, self-explanatory and shit like that. That's a pretty interesting kind of song and shit. Oh, I think what I got from that is like Chuck D witnessing a carjacking and shit like that. And he just goes ballistic, yeah. Track number 11, I Stand Accused. Fucking dope song. With this song, it's talking about like critics that like talk shit about them in the past and stuff like that. And I'm gonna talk more about the critics' influence on this album once I review this whole album, but it's kind of interesting too because the fact that in the video they were kind of going after like the source, like in the music video and shit like that, because they named the source like the sauce and shit like that. And what I got from this song was basically talking about how hip hop critics sometimes would talk shit about certain rappers and shit like that, but they'll over here want to like praise like the bullshit basically, which another shit that's very relevant today because you see you have all these motherfuckers like all these motherfuckers like Funkmaster Flex, like these fucking hip hop like purists who are always these fucking hip hop purists who are always praising these motherfucking whack rappers and shit like that. Going to praise all these like rap rappers and shit like that. But when it comes to like somebody who's making the change or somebody who actually is doing it for them and shit like that, they over here want to call them old corny and shit, which I might be part of a minority. I kind of felt like, Logic kind of falls into that because I'm not really the biggest Logic fan by any means. I mean, he has some dope shit here and there, but I kind of feel like as an MC, he kind of gets shitted on a bit too much compared to all these other whack MCs like that 6ix9ine motherfucker, that Blueface who made that Tatiana kind of song. It's like they'll, I don't know, but I'm kind of going a little off topic, but yeah. So that song is I Stand Accused. Track number 8, God Complex. That's a little like that's kind of like a last poet's cover, but with a twist and shit like that. Very interesting. Track number 9, Hitler Day. Fucking love that song. They're comparing Adolf Hitler to Christopher Columbus basically and shit. Which is crazy because if you guys watch this channel a couple times, you guys know about I mentioned Christopher Columbus a couple of times, and it's kind of like how they refer to Columbus Day as like a Black Holocaust, and we shouldn't even be celebrating Columbus Day because it's like Christopher Columbus didn't really discover shit when the Indians were already residing here in the first place and shit. And also the fact that we over here celebrating a day where the Europeans were fucking causing destruction and shit like that, forcing our people to go into slave labor, So yeah, what does that tell us about our people? So yeah, like they weren't taking no prisoners with this fucking album, man. That's what I fucking love. Track number 20, Harry Allen's interactive superhighway phone call to Chuck D. Okay. Harry Allen. For those of you who don't know who Harry Allen is, he's like a journalist that was that's affiliated with Public Enemy and shit like that. That's affiliated with Public Enemy and shit. Like he wrote a couple pieces on them. And he was really the cat that was easing the tension between Professor Griff, Public Enemy, and like the press at the time when the anti-Semitism controversy came out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's very interesting. And the last track off the album, Living in the Zoo remix. Yeah, very dope remix and shit like that. Yeah. And give me one quick second. Let me just get my new vinyls together. All right. Sorry about that, but yeah, okay. So my overall thoughts on this album, okay. This whole album, I have to say, is probably like the most slept on album in their discography, if you ask me. But at the same time, there are a couple of flaws, which I'm gonna talk about last. But with this album, I kind of felt like they were really like talking a lot of shit about the industry, about the public's perception about gangster rap and shit like that. And it's like, it's like basically saying, how you guys gonna talk shit about gangster rap, but you over here bumping it in your studio when it's like corrupting your minds and shit. I kind of felt like the beats were like a lot more harder edged than usual. Chuck D definitely did like a lot of dope lyrical performances on this song, like songs like "So What You Gonna Do Now," "White Heaven, Black Hell," then the line between law and rape, live and undrugged. Like he was just going in, he was just going fucking in and shit like that. Flav was not as animated as he was in the previous album, which I've kind of picked up on. I think because he was going through like a lot of shit going at that time. So yeah. My only gripe, though, if I do have to say, it was the album kind of ran a bit too long, which it might sound kind of hypocritical because it ran about the same time as Fear for Black Planet and shit like that. But what the difference between Fear for Black Planet and this album was, with this album, it's like they kind of talked a little bit too much, on gangster rap this, gangster rap that. Which I knew that was part of the concept, but at the same time, it was just like, whereas Fear for Black Planet, they had like a couple more variety within it. You know what I'm saying? Which at the same time, it could be a gripe to some, but at the same time, it wouldn't. And with this album, it's not really a gripe, just something I kind of picked up on. Now, the critics kind of shitted on this album at the time. And a lot of, not just critics, but a lot of fans kind of shitted on this album because I kind of felt like the biggest weakness this album had was time itself, because the year was 94. 94 was the year of the Wu-Tang was killing it. Then Nas dropped Illmatic. Biggie was about to blow up. And then with the gangster rap, Death Row was killing it and shit. And it was just like a lot. Public Enemy kind of fell in the background and shit. Like a lot of conscious hip hop groups fell in the background. And a lot of critics and fans were kind of pointing out the hypocrisy between Public Enemy, anti-drug stance and shit like that, because the fact that Flavor Flav was getting like a lot of trouble with the law. He was getting like a lot of trouble with the law and shit like that. And the fact of the matter is it was just like the critics, especially Torre, which you guys should know who Torre is. Motherfucker that looks like Timon from Lion King. He kind of said some shit like, PE is no longer the force it was, and he calls out poorly conceived, unlistenable, and he kind of took like a lot of issue within the song "I Stand Accused," where it was talking about dissing critics and shit like that. And he kind of pointed at hypocrisy, talking about, you guys are over here talking about gangster rap, promoting violence, but with you guys are kind of talking about the same shit within the songs. But yeah, it was like a lot of controversy within this whole album. But I kind of feel like this, if people will give this album a chance, they will get to know what they're talking about. That's all I'm saying. Because this album, I kind of call it like, in a weird way, a sister counterpart to Boogie Down Production's Sex and Violence and shit. Ew. And since I mentioned Sex and Violence, a Mobilarity One, my homeboy Steven, he recently done a very dope review, not just on Sex and Violence, Return to the Boom Bap 2. So check that out if you guys haven't. Because with that album, it kind of talked about the whole industry as well. And with this album, it's talking about the industry, but they were going to like a more political spectrum with this album. So with that being said, this album, I definitely should feel like this album should definitely deserve a chance within a lot of people and shit. Yeah, and this album's actually out of print as well, which is not surprising because it didn't really do too well. The Source even gave this 2.5 mics. Yeah. So if you guys can find it, must have in your collection. Let me see. Before I talk about these vinyl, let me see what the comments have been saying. Okay. Demerick said, I thought this one was okay, but need to revisit. Yeah, Demerick. When I first heard this album, I have to be real, I thought it was pretty okay too. I knew it wasn't as strong as the previous albums and shit. But over the years, I've kind of re-listened to it, having like a new appreciation for it. If you're interested in my thoughts on this album, stay tuned when I talk about Terminator X's 91 album and the Greatest Misses album. I'm gonna do those possibly together. Johnny Mills said you could tell by this album they were dissing gangster rap. Oh yeah, bro. Who you telling, man? Who you telling? Troutman said, slept on Public Enemy album. Yeah, Try. Yeah, you and I both know, like, this album, I feel like this album and Apocalypse 91 are like the most slept on ones. Most definitely. I definitely need to re-listen to the He Got Game soundtrack. I need to re-listen to that one. I've heard like many good things about it. Johnny said, so what you gonna do now in music video, you gangster Nazis in the video? Yeah, man, like that whole video, man, was just chilling, man. Love that video. They accused a black man of something, just like Brand Nubian song, claiming that I'm a criminal. Very dope song. I'm definitely gonna do a review on that album. Definitely gonna do a review on that album pretty soon because I want to do the Real to Real album on the Speak Your Clout sometime next week. I gotta talk to Mike about that. I'll give this album another chance because of your review. Yeah, Deborah, man. Let me know how you like that album though. I would love to hear a new Solid P album produced by Primo, the Derringer, Alchemist. To be honest, try if they would just have like the Bomb Squad do most of the beats, that would just be fine with me and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, like, besides like Demerick kind of mentioned, Chuck D and Primo kind of had like a little beef between the 10 Crack Commandments song, which I kind of think that they kind of squashed the beef now, but I don't think they'll be working with each other in the future. Try said that's something Chuck could get over. These producers could give an updated but sinister stance P in this new era. That is kind of true because I recently heard the Smith and Wesson new album that Ninth kind of produced, the For All joint. Fucking love that shit. Like Ninth kind of gave them like a more sinister sound with that one. Johnny said, remember the Arrested Development album Zinga Lam Mumduni? I can never get that name right. Yeah, that came out that same year. Yeah, fucking that was a fucking dope album. I heard some of the album. I actually did like that album when I first heard it, but I heard it like about 2012, 2013, so I gotta definitely re-listen to that album. Strawberry said Arrested Development, another slept on group. Yeah, very slept on if you ask me. I'm not like the biggest fan. Plus, Speech, I kind of he's an asshole in my opinion. Speech is an asshole. Yeah, fucking my opinion, but yeah. Yeah, I do like the album, the first album, the 3 years, 5 months, the one that dropped in '92. I do like some songs from that. Johnny said, dope review, Reg. Appreciate it, Johnny. I'm glad you like this review. Um, I might do another review later on. Might do another review. It's gonna be an R&B review, definitely. He Got Game, dope movie. Yeah, I've heard very good things about it. Try. I've saw some of it, but my memory about my movie is kind of limited, if you ask me. You said Solid Smith and Western album. Yeah, that's a very solid album. Yeah, very solid album and shit. And Demerick said, I like that Smith and Wesson album and shit. Yeah. All right, so like I mentioned before, I kind of have some extra vinyls I want to show y'all and shit like I'm sorry about that, everybody. My stupid ass laptop decides, hey, let's wait till live view so we can do like an automatic restart and shit. So I do apologize for that. But as I was saying, I'm definitely going to talk about my upcoming vinyls that I do have in my collection and shit. Got a few extra vinyls that I have. Let me just pull this shit up. Yeah, man. Ugh. Like this whole fucking week's just been hell for me, man. Time I do a fucking live video, man, my laptop wants to fucking restart, but I'm not complaining. Okay. The first album I have in my collection is Roger Troutman's second studio album, Saga Continues. It was released in 1984 on Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers. Yeah, Roger Troutman, you guys know who he is. Legendary, innovative when it comes to R&B, funk music and shit. He's mostly known for using the talk box, which is not fucking auto-tune, which a lot of people want to say, oh, it's just another way of auto-tune. No, it's not. The talk box was actually different, very different. It's actually an instrument and shit like that. When it comes to singles this album was known for was his cover of the Wilson Pickett song "In the Midnight Hour," "In the Mix," and "Girl Cut It Out." Yeah, I've heard fucking good things about this album. I've heard a little bit from this album. The album that I kind of do want in my collection mostly are the many facets of Roger. Did the first solo joint and the joint he dropped in '87, Unlimited and shit. But I definitely need to get like some Zapp and Roger albums as well. Yeah. Basically just need those albums, especially the first Zapp album and shit. That shit right there. Woo! Yeah. Oh, and the song "It's in the Mix" was actually a tribute to like Soul Train and Don Cornelius, which I just read up just a couple minutes ago. So yeah, very, very, very dope album from what I've heard. Yeah, Windows, I know y'all it's coming from a fucking unexpected shutdown. Yeah, because I fucked up my video. But yeah, Roger Troutman, The Saga Continues, released in 1984. I believe this album was re-released, according to my sources, in Japan in 2015. So I guess it's out of print in the US. The next album I got is this is for all my 90s R&B heads. It's H-Town's second album, Begging After Dark, released in 1994 on Luke Records. Yeah, H-Town. You know the crazy thing, I recently heard this whole album in full last week. That's a fucking crazy thing. And I got the album. I got the album a couple days, on vinyl. So I was kind of surprised when I found the album. So I was like, God damn, okay. So, like I mentioned, this is the second studio album. You guys should know who H-Town are. They're the group that made that classic song, Knocking the Boots and shit like that, which a lot of people kind of know them for, but they've had other big songs. I mean, that's like the biggest song, but they've had other notable songs from that era and shit like that. They dropped the first album, Fever, Fever for the Flavor and shit like that. Very good album in my opinion. Very good album in my opinion. And so the next year, they dropped this next album and stuff. But yeah, drop that next album and shit like that. In my opinion, this is like my favorite album from H Town and shit like that. And I'm not like really the biggest H Town fan like that, but this album is like has that fucking quiet storm. That's if you guys like, if you guys are a fan of Jodeci's Diary of a Madman, you'll definitely love this album because like you can tell like they were kind of influenced with the production and shit like that. Oh, the singles albums known for Much Feeling and It Tastes Great, Backseat with No Sheet, One Night Gigolo, Emotions, which I believe was the biggest single from this album, Full Time, and Baby I Love You. Um, this album came out around a time when they were also going through problems with the label. They were actually going through problems with the label and shit like that. Because it didn't really escalate until years later, but with this album, it were kind of beginning to have problems with Luke because they felt like Luke was mismanaging the money and shit like that. But Luke said that they weren't like really into it like that, they making it up. So yeah, so this whole album, kind of released around that time and shit. They even went on fucking Video Soul, the fucking the R&B BET show that they used to have, and they were all dressed up as like inmates from prison and shit, chained together. So yeah, that was fucking like grimy as fucking grimy as hell and shit like that. Yeah, this. So this is like H Town, Begging After Dark, released in 1994. I believe this album is out of print, so if you guys find it, you must have in your collection. Okay, this album right here. We've kind of talked about this album a lot recently when it comes to this artist and shit. I kind of had a feeling I was gonna find this album pretty soon, and it's Ja Rule's second album, the Rule 336 album, released in 2000 under Murder Inc. and shit like that, under Murder Inc. Def Jam and shit. Yeah, very very dope album. You guys should know who Ja Rule. You guys should know who fucking Ja Rule is and shit. Um, yeah, man. Singles albums known for are Between Me and You, with Christian Milan. You guys should know Christina Milan and shit like that. You guys should know who she is. Put It On Me featuring Vita and Lil Mo. 6 Feet Underground and I Cry. Yeah, man. Like this album right here, very very good album. Must have in your collection. Um, Not as good as his first album, if you ask me, but when it comes to Ja Rule, his first two albums, just kind of go back and back. And this album, he kind of like broke him out more in the mainstream a little bit. Yeah, if you guys love early 2000s hip hop, you guys will most definitely love this album and shit. And like I mentioned before, like I'm not like the biggest Ja Rule. I'm not like the biggest Ja Rule fan, but he does have some fucking heat. Pain is Love was okay, but it was a bit too R&B flavored for me. Um, yeah, so Rule 336, good, a very dope album. In 2004, they actually re-released this album in 2004, like with a DVD and shit like that. But this album is actually out of print, so if you guys can find it, must have. All right, and next album. Whew. These last two albums right here, these are mostly for my R&B heads and shit. Next album is Michael Henderson's Going Places, released in 1977 on Buddha Records. Michael Henderson, you guys should know. For those who don't know, he is a bass player, jazz, soul singer, and shit like that. He worked with like a lot of artists like Miles. He worked with Miles Davis a lot in the early 70s and shit. If you guys know that song by Norman Connors, like "You Are My Starship," he was the dude that sang that song. Like I fucking love that song. All my Mob Deep heads should know about that song. Um, this is his second solo album. He dropped and shit like that. His first being Solid that came out in '76. Yeah, fucking going places. The singles this album came out with was I Can't Help It and Won't You Be Mine. Yeah, man, like this whole album, it has that late nights cruising kind of music within it and shit like that. Um, but the song that really always gets me in a good mood, Let Me Love You. And you guys might not ring to like a lot of people's earbells at the moment, but if you guys know that Danny Boy song he did on the Murder Was a Case soundtrack, that was a song he sampled from. Like a lot of people sample from this album, like Compton's Most Wanted, most definitely sample some shit from this album too. So this shit right here is a very, very good album and shit. Like, Let Me Love You, that do 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 do. Like this whole fucking album, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Going Places, Michael Henderson. This album was re-released in 2014. So if you guys can find it, must have in your collection. And the last album I have, I'm going to take it to Minneapolis with this one. This is another album I was kind of looking for a while. It's Alexander O'Neal's I believe this is his first album, his first self-titled album, excuse me, released in 1985 on Taboo under Epic Records. Yeah, Alexander O'Neal, man, like fucking yeah. You guys, if you guys are familiar with like Prince at the time, you guys should know about Alexander O'Neal. But for those who don't know, he is a singer from Minneapolis that he was not from Minneapolis. He's from Natchez, Mississippi. He was born in Natchez, but he was raised in Minneapolis. Excuse me. Okay. Um, he got to start, performing a couple of bands in Minneapolis and shit, and and he got affiliated with, with Prince because Prince liked what he heard when he was doing work with Flight Time and shit like that, which was a band that included Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Monte Moore, and all that. And from what I've looked up, he was supposed to be the original member, the original lead singer of the time, way before Morris Day and shit like that. But at that, I believe they had like a disagreement because from what I've read, he was on drugs and shit like that, and he got booted and replaced by Morris Day. So Alexander was kind of in limbo and shit. And in 1984, he signed to Taboo Records, and he was working with a lot of artists like the SOS Band, and of course Sherelle, who that would be like his best known mainstream popularity was with his work with Sherelle when he did that song Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Y'all know that song. So 1985, this album was released. Singles albums known for are Innocent, If You Were Here Tonight, A Broken Heart Can Mend, What's Missing, and You Weren't Meant to Be My Lady, Not My Girl. This album, very, very dope album. I'm not gonna front. A lot of people want to say this is his best album, but I kind of prefer Hearsay more because that album had like a lot more of Minneapolis sound, whereas this album, it does have like a lot of Minneapolis sound, but he was going for like a lot more soul with this album, which is nothing wrong with that. If You Were Here Tonight, that's a fucking ballad right there and shit like that. And yeah, it's kind of crazy too because when it comes to the Minneapolis sound, at that time, it's like you had like the Prince-led Minneapolis sound, and then you had like the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis-led Minneapolis sound. And what I mean by that is like with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they were working on, shit with Alexander O'Neal and shit like that. They were working with the SOS band. They were working with Sherelle. They were working with Sherelle and shit. And yeah, whereas Prince, he had like Chile E and the Time and so on and so on. Oh, and how can I forget Climax too? So yeah. So that's Alexander O'Neal, self-titled. This album was recently re-released in 2013. So if you can find it, it must have in your collection. Let's see what the comments have to say. Shit. Let me see what the comments have to say. Cause I know I missed a couple after that little incident that happened. The 10 Commandments beat was originally for Angie Martinez's Top 9 Countdown. That's what Garrett Muganda said. I don't even know if I'm saying your last name right, bro. I'm sorry if I butchered that shit. I didn't fucking know that and shit. I didn't fucking know that because I originally I thought that beat was for Jay the Damager and shit. Travers said Angie Martinez should be banned from rapping forever. I definitely agree. Stick to radio and but she's fucking beautiful though. I ain't gonna front though. Johnny Mills said He Got Game was the last album for the Def Jam label. Yeah, that was the last album because there's a Poison going on. That was an independent release. Give me 1 second. My throat's a little dry. Forgive me. Yeah, because yeah, He Got Game. Then there's a Poison going on. And after there's a Poison, I think the next album was the New World Order. Yeah, Denmark said. Yeah, yeah, y'all. Angie Martinez used to rap a couple times and shit like that. So Trevor said Trump causing blackouts on YouTube. I won't be fucking surprised, Try, because I probably never experienced nothing like that. It just came out literally out of nowhere. And the other fucked up thing that happened was like my fucking laptop had like still about 29% left, but then it's talking about your fucking battery is going out, your fucking battery died and shit like that. So I don't fucking know anymore, but yeah. She came out with an album in 2000. I promoted for the record label. Oh shit. I never knew you promoted for Angie Martinez and shit. I never knew you fucking promoted that. Let me see what else. Big and Puff liked the beat and wanted DJ for me to call them. Yeah, Garnett. I mentioned that. Yeah, Trybetter said you met Joe Budden at Def Jam. How was Joe Budden personality wise at that time? I'm just kind of curious though. I still can't believe his own brother shot him and shit. Wait, what? Hey, Johnny, whose own brother though? Whose own brother? I think that was kind of like when the laptop blacked out. Dart Adams might have beat with you on the vinyl game with the vinyl game. Dart Adams, yeah, I'll definitely check him out because I like to like watch like a lot of different vinyl collections. I like to watch the different vinyl collections myself because of the fact sometimes when I used to watch all these collection videos, that's how I used to find most of the albums I got today. Like just watching other vinyl collections or just going to like Rachel Music and shit like that. You know. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you talking Johnny, you talking about fucking Roger Troutman. Oh, okay. Yeah, man. Fucking that's fucking crazy and shit like that. Yeah, but people want to say allegedly, but yeah, we know that shit happened. Yeah, we know that shit. Johnny also said, rest in peace to Dino. Yes, rest in peace, Dino from H-Town as well. Yo, what's up, KRD? How you been? What's good with you? Trevor said New Kids on the Block gave H-Town a shout out on their new single. Yeah, that little boy band kind of song. And yo, I actually heard the Face the Music album, like I mentioned on Instagram, I actually fuck with that album. Definitely had that New Jack Swing kind of feel to it. Yeah, fucking dope album. Um, Part-Time Lover, classic, definitely a classic song. Um, Garnett said 94 Ja Rule was dope, 99 to 2004 Ja Rule. And to be real, yeah, like when he was in Cash Money Click, he was fucking fire during Cash Money Click and shit. In my opinion, I would say 1999 to 2002, 2003. Those are, well, 2002, man. I kind of feel what you're saying though. Vini Vidi Vici and The Last Temptation, my favorites. Oh yeah, you did say you like The Last Temptation. Try. Yeah, I gotta re-listen to that album if I have to. Morris Day had more personality and swag. He did. He did have more personality and swag. I have There's a Poison going on in my collection. Lucky you, man. That's lucky you, KRD. All right. Yeah, and I'm just gonna chat for a little bit doing my channel and shit. Um, what is it? What is it? Oh, okay. So yeah, I might do another R&B review sometime tonight. It's a toss-up between Rick James' Fire It Up or Patrice Russian's what's the album? Straight from the Heart album. So it might be a toss-up between that. Um, I definitely want to do Vendetta sometime next week, Sunday. I want to talk to the Speaker Cloud crew about that. Appreciate the love I got from Talib Kweli's The Beautiful Struggle review. Appreciate the love I got from that. The next trash review I'm thinking about doing is Warren G's Take a Look Over Your Shoulder. Yeah, and Jesus Christ, man. Fuck. Yeah, I kind of felt like I was sticking a little bit too much in the East Coast, Midwest, a couple South. So yeah, that album, no one's safe. That's all I'm gonna say. That next month I might do Warren G's Take a Look Over Your Shoulder and both War and Pieces from Ice Cube and shit. Yeah. Yeah, man. Fucking yeah. Also, what else? I definitely also want to do a review on Grand Puba's on Reel to Wheel as well sometime next week because of the fact that I just recently done All for One, and I know Mike, everybody in Speaker Cloud loves that album, worships that album, so I definitely want to do that on the Speaker Cloud channel and shit. Um, and a couple more things as well. I'm thinking about doing a video paying homage to New Jack Swing. I'm thinking about doing that. Lately, I've been in the New Jack Swing vibe lately. So I'm thinking about doing something like that in case anyone's interested. And finally, regarding the Rock retrospective, the ideal date is still going to be March 25th. But since I was doing like a lot of crazy shit, especially with helping my mom move, help my brother-in-law move, getting some my things together with the music video, it might get pushed back a couple more days. But I still want to do it sometime in March because I might want to do All in the Family sometime next month as well. So yeah. All right, now before I fucking go and shit, I want to read the comments, see anything I need to address. Ashley said, I'm glad you loved Face the Music. Oh yeah, Ash. I don't know. Yeah. For those of you guys who don't know, Ashley is a very good friend of mine and shit. She's a new watcher. Ashley, I don't know if you're still interested, but would you be willing to do, I don't know if you have like a webcam or nothing, but would you be willing to do a review on Face the Music? Because you have requested me to do that review. And me, I'm not like the biggest fan of New Kids on the Block. I kind of consider them like Maurice Starr's Revenge Against New Edition, but if you want to do a review on that album, like I'm down game. Just let me know and shit. KRD said, have you heard Cam's Made in America? You know, KRD, I have to be quite honest with you. I've never heard a Chem album besides I think the first one. which I believe was Never Again, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard many good things about Kem, and I definitely wonder why it took me so long to listen to his project. So I'm definitely gonna like check out those albums, his first two albums and shit. So yeah, I'm trying to get more into like West Coast hip hop and shit. So yeah, Travis, I gotta hear Face the Music. Yeah, yeah, try. It came out in '93. It's a very dope project and shit. Yeah, I'd rather listen to that than fucking NSYNC or some bullshit. Johnny said, "Yeah, I was talking about Larry killing his own brother." Yeah, I kind of figured you were talking about that, which kind of dawned on me. I was like, "Oh shit, Roger Troutman." Okay, yeah, that album was that album is horrid. Which album were you talking about? You talking about Pain is Love Try? I don't know which album you were talking about, but Ashley said it's a great album. It's fun to try. That Reggie. I guess you're talking about the Warren G album. Okay, yeah. I think I don't know, whatever. KRD said that the Reggie album was cat shit. You talking about the Redman album? Because if you are, I agree with you 100%. I like Real to Real more than Wild Cowboys. Really try? Oh shit, dog. I'm kind of surprised though because I kind of prefer, as much as I love Real to Real, I kind of prefer Wild Cowboys over that album any day because I don't know, but those albums are kind of neck to neck too, man. But check out also Lord Jamar's first album, the 5% album as well, because that album has some shit as well. Um, Diggable Planets, Blowout Comb, dope. Oh yeah, man, fucking Diggable Planets. Now, I actually did a review on that Johnny too. Just just go to my channel and type Diggable Planet. I need to also get the first album, the Reaching album. I need to get that, but Blowout Comb, that album is so ahead of its time and shit. Ashley said, I'm interested in the New Jack Swing review. Both her and Try. Oh, most definitely. Garnett said, "Will you cover Neo Soul?" Yeah, I'm definitely have like a lot of ideas though because yeah, I was thinking about doing a tribute to New Jack Swing. I'm already trying to do a tribute to like Easy Mo B. So Neo Soul will definitely come in the future though, because if you guys know this channel, you guys know how much I love Neo Soul. So yeah. KRD said 2000 is my favorite Poopa album. Whoa, 2000, my nigga. Which I'm not trying to bash you, but I'm kind of surprised though because to 2000 I thought it was okay, but it wasn't like a lot of the songs sounded too similar. But I'm just gonna leave that for the review because I'm doing a review on that album next month as well. That one might be a live review as well, just to be real. Johnny Mills said Teddy Riley is the man. Oh yeah, Teddy Riley definitely is a fucking man. Like if you love the shit he did with New Jack Swing, check out some of the shit he was doing with Kumo D and shit like that. You'll be fucking amazed and shit, you know. And he was like only fucking 19, 18 when he was working with Kumo D. Tribera said, New Edition and New Kids on the Block were the best during the 80s. Yeah, New Edition, man. I gotta talk about New Edition on this channel sometime and shit. Yeah, I need to get my hands on the Any Heartbreak album though. I need to get my hands on that. I love to do it, but I don't have a webcam and shit. Yeah, like Strawberry said, Google Hangouts, which I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a minute and shit like that. Yeah, you were talking about Warren G's second album. Yeah, cause I actually heard y'all mention it. We were talking about it when I showed y'all the show soundtrack, and I was just like, you know what? Yeah, let's do Warren G's second album because yeah, that album. I don't know how y'all felt about that album though, but I know that Mike said he didn't like it. You said that's dumpster juice. Okay, thanks. I'll do it. Okay, Ash, yeah, we're gonna talk about that after though. After KRD said, yeah, Redman. Oh, fucking malpractice, man. Malpractice, the Reggie album. Yeah, those are my least favorite Redman albums. Red Gone Wild was okay. It had some joints I did like from it, but that album, in a weird way, it felt like it was not finished. I don't know if it was just me, but I felt like the Red Gone Wild album was not finished. It had like a very mixtape quality with some of the songs, but yeah. Wild Cowboys is dope, but Pooba production on Real to Real though. Oh yeah, I agree 100%. Try the production on Real to Real. I kind of prefer that over Wild Cowboys. So that part, I agree with you on that part. I agree. The Massacre was the Drizzling Pits from the 50 Cent album. You know, I'm not gonna front. When I first heard Massacre, I wasn't even too fond of it as well, but with that album, I kind of do like Massacre album a bit more than I used to. I have Diggable Planet's first album. Ashley said, "Oh, lucky, you lucky as hell, boy." Yeah, the album is not like expensive or nothing like that. It's just that like, and I've seen that album in stores too. I just been lazy as hell. KRD said, "Yeah, I love 2000." Okay, okay, respect, no problem. Yeah, Garnett said Teddy Riley got to start in hip hop. Oh yeah, no doubt, of course. Johnny said Paris the Devil Made Me Do It and Sleeping with the Enemy, dope albums. Oh man, I fucking love Paris' first three albums, man. Like those are my favorite albums from him, to be honest with you. Garnett said one of his first outwork was on the Dougie Fresh the Show. Oh yeah, how can I forget that? How can I forget? 2000 was actually my introduction to Grand Puba. Yeah, I kind of feel you, KRD. I feel you on that respect. All right. Okay, it's about 9:11 right now. Yeah, I think I might just wrap it up because I got some stuff to do, got some stuff to look over. But thank y'all so much for watching this review and shit like that. It's your boy Reg here. Like I said, I might do another review tonight. I might not, so stay tuned on that. And yeah, peace. Well, actually, hold up. Yeah, peace. Okay.